Hey guys, this is the LarryBoy Fanatic, and this is another episode of the LBF podcast. So welcome everyone. If you haven't seen the first episode of my podcast, go check it out now. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my introduction to LarryBoy. Well, first off, I'm a little winded right now because I just got home from running a couple of errands. It's just like always something. It's like if I need something, I gotta go get it. If I have to do something, then I gotta be there. It's just on and off. But I don't go out of the house often because, trying to do my best in social distancing and all that. But it is what it is. So anyways, this episode is going to be my first introduction to LarryBoy, so here we go. So, first impression? Well, it's kind of interesting. Okay, let me tell you the story. I think I was like 10 years old at the time, and yeah, I didn't really watch VeggieTales back then. But when I was 10 years old, I was introduced to LarryBoy before I was ever introduced to VeggieTales. If I ran into VeggieTales, then it was just like bits and pieces of it. But LarryBoy was what stood out the most. Okay, what's it called? DirecTV used to have something called pay-per-view. Well, they still have pay-per-view movies and all that, but it was a lot different than today. Then we had like a free trial for the pay-per-view. It was like a free month or a free week or something like that. One of the videos that were on there for pay-per-view was LarryBoy and the Angry Eyebrows. Yeah, you heard right. LarryBoy and the Angry Eyebrows. It wasn't Fib or Rumorweed. It was one of the episodes of the Cartoon Adventures series. I still can't believe it to this day. I still can't believe that was my very first LarryBoy video that I've ever watched. I remember watching it twice that day. My grandma Betty was like, "Okay, we'll watch it. We'll watch it one more time, Veronica." So yeah, that was my introduction. Well, the story's not over yet. You know what, guys? I still can't believe that was the very first LarryBoy video that I've ever got introduced to the LarryBoy universe. I remember the next day I drew a picture of LarryBoy. I almost got his whole appearance right. I remember drawing his eyes like apart instead of close together, like in the cartoon. I was sitting at the dining room table and I was drawing the picture of it. I was drawing a picture of LarryBoy, and I don't know if it was my grandma or someone else in the house. They pointed to my picture and said, "Oh, there's the guy from yesterday. That's who we saw yesterday." So all I could tell you for the first impression is that there was something about him. I don't know what it is. Maybe his charm, the charisma, the appearance. Had to be something. Yeah, I could still picture that day. That was like one of the best days of my life, is when I got introduced to LarryBoy. I can't believe it's been that long. 10 years old? I was like, my gosh. You could say that I was a big fan since I was 10. So that's gotta be 16 or 17 years that I've been a LarryBoy fan. I don't know. I would have to do the math later on. So from there, it just became like a domino effect of my interest growing and growing. So how did it all grow? Well, there's more to the story, and I just want to remind you guys that y'all are listening to the LBF podcast. So I want to thank everyone for listening, for tuning in and listening. It's most appreciated. So anyways, back to the story. Fast forward to 11 years old. My grandma brings home a bunch of VeggieTales DVDs. No. Not DVDs, VHS tapes. I mean, there had to be DVDs when I was 11. But anyways, I remember her going to a thrift store or whatever. Hey, you can find good stuff at the thrift store. And in this case, she found a lot of these VHS tapes of VeggieTales. And 2 of them were LarryBoy related. In my mind, I was like, yes! In that pile was LarryBoy in the Fib from Outer Space and LarryBoy in the Rumorweed. So I decided to watch Fib from Outer Space first. We get the TV going, we put the VHS tape in the VCR, we play the movie, and it was pretty cool. The first time me watching it, I was super excited. And then like a few nights later, I decided to watch that video again, but this time, after watching Fib from Outer Space, I would turn on the Rumorweed VHS. I remember Rumorweed looking really different from Fib. I know that the Fib from Outer Space video was just a startup to the LarryBoy universe. It was a basic story, how there's a alien from outer space and he manipulates this kid and LarryBoy has to go rescue Junior and all that. Monster going out of control and wrecking stuff, destroying the town or whatever. Then Rumorweed, I felt like Rumorweed had like a darker vibe. Well, not too dark. It had like a more intense feel to it than Fit from Outer Space. I just remember when my very first viewing of Rumorweed, my heart was pounding. It was pounding so badly in my chest. It was like the anticipation. After that, after watching the entire video of Rumorweed, I remember just like my hands shaking and oh my gosh. It was like adrenaline almost running through my veins. Yeah, I used to get that a lot whenever I would watch Rumorweed. Nowadays, it's still there. I'm not as shaky when it comes to Rumorweed. I was gonna say Fib. But Rumorweed, I still feel the intensity, but it's not as much as before. So yeah, getting those two videos along with the pile of VeggieTales VHS tapes, yeah, I gotta thank my Grandma Betty for that. And I also gotta thank her for when she got that LarryBoy plushie for me. I remember talking about this in one of my videos. And believe it or not, I still have that plushie. I mean, that plushie's going nowhere. I'm not getting rid of it. I'm not selling it. I'm taking that to my grave. You bury that plushie with me. But anyways, I was 11 years old at the time. I came home from school one day. Well, actually, from school I went to the dentist or whatever. It was someplace across town or whatever. I remember going from school to across town and then back home. And I walked through the door, I looked straight to the living room, and look who's staring back at me. The LarryBoy plushie. It's like everything about the plushie, it looked exactly like LarryBoy. It felt like I had him in real life. It was one of the best days of my life because having your favorite superhero in the flesh or in the plush, because it's a plushie, the best thing that anyone could give me. Because LarryBoy was someone that I looked up to. I looked up to him because he was a hero. I mean, sure, he could be afraid at times, but at least he has the guts to take on Fib, take on Rumorweed, yeah, all those baddies. And that's what I liked about him. He's not afraid to do things. There's so much compassion. That guy has heart, I tell you that. I'll tell you that right now. People could say, oh, well, he didn't really save the day in Fit from Outer Space, and he didn't even save the day in Rumorweed. Well, let me be the first to tell you that you're probably right, but at least he made the effort. However, when Bad Apple comes, which we'll get there, that's when you realize, yeah, that's when I can give credit to you and say, yeah, you're right. He didn't do much in Fib and Rumorweed. It was just starting points. But when it comes to Bad Apple, I can no longer be an apologist to his status in Fib and Rumorweed, like whether he saved the day or not. In Bad Apple, he legit saves the day. But like I said, we'll get to Bad Apple in a moment. So, did I ever binge watch LarryBoy? Honestly, yes. 11 years old, I was crazy about him. A lot of the things that I thought of was about LarryBoy. I would fantasize about him. I would talk about him. I would write about him. It's like, you could call me a LarryBoy fangirl. But in truth, I'm the LarryBoy fanatic. So close enough, right? I would have called myself LarryBoy fangirl, but it's like, I want to put some more variety to my name. To my stage name. So, binge watching out of control? Kinda, sort of. Well, I didn't really think that me watching LarryBoy all the time was bad. But it got to the point where my mom and my grandma were like, hey, you need to watch something else. What about these other VeggieTales videos? What about them? Don't you want to watch them? I remember getting upset one time because they weren't letting me watch my favorite superhero. And so I reluctantly watched a regular VeggieTales video. I remember tricking them one time. I had asked, who was it, my grandma or my mom, if I could watch another LarryBoy video, and they were like, why don't you watch something else? So I selected Dave and the Giant Pickle. And what they didn't know was that was LarryBoy's official debut appearance on the show. I mean, he didn't really have an acting part in this one, but he was just there to listen to the story of David and Goliath. So, if you're listening to this, Mom, I apologize for deceiving y'all for watching a LarryBoy kinda sorta LarryBoy video when I wasn't supposed to. Yeah, I didn't tell him that Dave and the Giant Pickle had LarryBoy. They just thought it was like a regular VeggieTales video. I remember looking at the doorway, watching Dave and the Giant Pickle, and then turning to the door to make sure that no one was coming in. I wouldn't get caught watching LarryBoy. Luckily no one came in, but I just needed my LarryBoy fix. You couldn't persuade me not to watch him, you know? You couldn't persuade me not to watch his videos. At the time, I was just a fangirl. So you really can't take that away from me, you know what I'm saying? And then it got to the point where they put their foot down and say, hey, you need to watch something else, or you're not watching anything. So I selected a video called The End of Silliness. Watching that video, well, first off, that video was depressing because Larry the Cucumber can't do his silly songs or whatever. It's kind of like how I felt. I couldn't watch LarryBoy videos and enjoy them because I'm being restricted. I didn't like being restricted at the time. And I remember staying mad for like a couple of days. And then I got over it, and I had to wait a while until it was more comfortable to watch LarryBoy videos again. To get them off my back, I don't know, it just seemed unfair at the time. Like there was something that I was into. A genre, a superhero, a character that I was really into. But I was being restricted. But now, the more I think about it, I remember when I was 11, I had behavioral problems at school. Maybe that had a hand in things, but I'm not sure. But even still, that was something that made me happy. And to be restricted from something that makes me happy, I mean, you gotta understand that I wasn't the brightest kid back then. I had a lot of behavioral issues growing up, but I was able to rise above from all that. I remember in 6th grade, by the end of 6th grade, I looked back at how I've been as a student and how I would misbehave all the time or act out in class. And then it's like, hey, I want to be a better student. I want to be a better person. So when 7th grade came, I was passing all my classes, I was behaving, I was being polite and respectful to teachers. There was like a big change in me. And it was great that I no longer had to have in-school suspension or detention. It felt really good for teachers to look up to you and say, hey, you're doing a good job. Good job, you're doing well. So that's a little bit on the school part of my childhood. But I still don't know why watching a lot of LarryBoy videos was bad at the time. I don't understand. Anyways, my mom and my grandma thought that it was a little obsessive at the time. So it is what it is. So we're almost done with the story here, and I just want to remind listeners again that they're listening to the LBF podcast. If you've gotten this far into the podcast episode, thank you so much. I really appreciate the audience that I'm getting through the podcast, as well as the number of subscribers that I have on my channel. Wow. Amazing. Maybe this year I can get up to 1,000. What do you guys think? But you know what? Time will tell. As long as I have my YouTube channel, and as long as I have my podcast, which, by the way, I'm thinking about uploading the first episode of the podcast onto my YouTube channel so that my listeners and my YouTube audience can listen to the first episode. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. But anyways, we're jumping right back into the story. So, binge watching, that period was done and over with. What I did was to make them not be concerned about how much I'm watching LarryBoy, I decided to, alternate. On one day I would watch a LarryBoy video. And then the next time I watch VeggieTales, it would just be like a regular VeggieTales episode. A regular VeggieTales video. So I remember doing something like LarryBoy on this day, Grapes of Wrath on another day, which is Are You My Neighbor? And then LarryBoy on the next day, then Rack, Shack, and Benny on another day. Something like that. Just so that I can show my family that, hey, I'm not being too obsessive about LarryBoy. So I did that kind of pattern for a good while. And then when I was 13, going into 8th grade, I think, I was 13 at the time, that was when LarryBoy and the Bad Apple came out. And I talked about this in my first episode of the podcast. When LarryBoy and the Bad Apple came out, I was super excited, and I was saving up my money and going to Walmart to buy the DVD. I think the Bad Apple was like the first DVD that I ever bought in my life. So that's a milestone. So the Bad Apple was on DVD. There's no VHS release. Apparently the Bad Apple episode was the first LarryBoy related video to be released exclusively on DVD. I know it's out on Blu-ray, but at the time, the initial release was on DVD. They stopped making VHS tapes a while back. So you're not gonna find a VHS tape of the Bad Apple. So when LarryBoy and the Bad Apple came out, I was happy. I couldn't wait to buy the DVD, and I couldn't wait to watch it. And you might be asking, well, LarryBoy Fanatic, was it worth the wait? Yes, maybe. Well, I was... How do I answer this? I was like, I wasn't expecting LarryBoy to come back after Fib and Rimmerweed. Well, I wasn't expecting him to come back sooner than I thought. And this had to be a fan favorite because there was a video game tie-in for the Bad Apple movie, Game Boy, and the PlayStation 2. I have both versions, by the way, but right now I'm playing the PS2 version. I used to play the version for the Game Boy, but my Game Boy died a long time ago. I'm kind of tempted to buy a used Game Boy or whatever, go to GameStop or whatever, buy a Game Boy Advance, and do a Let's Play or whatever. Well, I could totally see myself doing a Let's Play with the PS2 version. I think I've done that before, but all I did was place my tablet to film the television. I'm hoping that when I get GamerProud's Elgato capture card, that I would be able to do a Let's Play. That way there's a better quality. I'll most likely start over on the game, because I remember, where did we leave off? Okay, we did Petunia's Temptation, which was video games. We did that part. Oh, okay, we're doing Paul Grape's Temptation, which is playing with toys, or something like that. Because I remember there being a rocket ship, and then this castle, and lava. Like, it just gets crazier and crazier as you go further and further into the game. But that's what I like. I like the gameplay. On the PS2 version, of course. The gameplay in the Game Boy Advance version, I do not like the graphics. But anyways, we're going off topic. So when LarryBoy and the Bad Apple came out, I'll talk about the video games more on my YouTube channel. Most likely. So LarryBoy and the Bad Apple came out when I was 13. I was happy, and from there, the rest is history. And like I said, it's been 16 or 17 years since my introduction to LarryBoy. And I gotta tell you, I'm still happy. I'm still a big fan. And that's why I call myself the LarryBoy Fanatic. Cause let me tell you, the fandom was the spark that led to this YouTube channel and has eventually led to this podcast. And I am loving it. I'm loving it so much, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, the end. So that was my story. That was my introduction to LarryBoy. If you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe. And be sure to watch the first episode. Or should I say listen to the first episode. Yeah, I'm used to being on my YouTube channel. Which, by the way, I got more videos coming up, especially for next month, because next month is Vlogs Month 2021. LarryBoy Vlogs Month 2021. I can't wait to show you guys what I have in store for y'all for both this podcast and for the YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you want to support both shows, donate to my Patreon at patreon.com/LarryBoyFanatic. And you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/LarryBoyFanatic. And I also have a blog, which is LarryBoyFanatic2006.blogspot.com. Yeah, it's a lot of links. Anyways, I'll leave them in the description. But as always, thank you so much for listening to the LBF podcast. And this has been your girl, LarryBoy Fanatic, the eyes and plunger ears of the LarryBoy universe. See you guys!